The shuttle docked with the USS Constellation at exactly 600 hours. Lieutenant Vance stepped off the transport with a single bag over her shoulder and a face that showed nothing. She was shorter than most soldiers, with dark hair pulled back tight and eyes that seemed to look through things rather than at them. The deck officer checked her transfer papers and pointed her toward Barrack C without much interest. New transfers came and went all the time. There was nothing special about this one. At least that was what everyone thought. The 47th Orbital Infantry had been fighting for 3 years straight. They had seen action on 7 different worlds and lost too many friends to count. Every soldier in the unit carried scars, both visible and hidden. They were hard men and women who had earned their place through blood and pain. So when walked into the barracks that morning, they looked at her the way wolves look at a lost sheep. Sergeant was sitting on his bunk cleaning his rifle when she entered. He was a big man with a thick neck and hands that had broken bones before. He glanced up at the newcomer and let out a low whistle. "Well, look at this," he said loud enough for everyone to hear. "Command sent us a librarian." The other soldiers laughed. Corporal walked over to get a better look. He circled slowly like she was something strange he had found on the ground. "You sure you are in the right place, ma'am?" asked with a grin. "The research division is 2 decks up." Set her bag down on an empty bunk. "This is the 47th. I am in the right place." Her voice was calm and flat. She did not seem angry or embarrassed. She did not seem like anything at all. This only made the soldiers more curious. Private Cole was the youngest in the platoon. He was barely 20 years old and still had some kindness left in him that the war had not burned away. He thought about introducing himself properly, maybe showing her around the ship. But then Corporal caught his eye and shook his head slowly. Understood. The new lieutenant had to prove herself first. That was how things worked. Over the next few days, the mockery grew worse. They called her the Ghost because she barely spoke and moved so quietly that people forgot she was in the room. During combat drills, she performed adequately but nothing more. She followed orders without complaint but never showed initiative. The other soldiers took this as proof that she did not belong. "You ever actually fire that weapon at something living?" asked her one evening in the mess hall. He was sitting with and they were all watching her eat alone at a corner table. Looked up, yes. "Yeah, how many kills you got?" She paused for a moment as if doing math in her head. "I stopped counting a long time ago." The men laughed hard at that. They thought she was joking or lying or both, slapped the table with his palm. "That is rich," he said. "The Ghost stopped counting, sure you did." Returned to her meal without another word. She did not defend herself. She did not explain. She simply existed in their space like a shadow they could not chase away. Captain Laura watched all of this from a distance. She was the commanding officer of the 47th, a tall woman with gray streaks in her brown hair and a reputation for being fair but firm. She had received file 3 days before the transfer, and what she read had kept her awake at night. The file was classified at the highest level. Most of it was redacted with black bars covering whole paragraphs, but what remained was enough to make Laura's hands shake. She knew who Vance really was. She knew what this quiet woman had done during the darkest days of the war, and she knew why Command had sent her here under a false identity with orders to remain hidden. But orders were orders. Laura could not tell anyone the truth. She could only watch and wait and hope that the platoon never discovered what kind of soldier was sleeping in the bunk next to theirs. One night Laura found alone in the observation deck, staring out at the stars. The woman did not turn around when the captain approached. "They do not make it easy, do they?" Laura said quietly. "I did not expect them to. You could shut them up with a single word. All I have to do is unseal your record and they would never mock you again." Shook her head slowly. "That is not what I want." "What do you want?" There was a long silence. When finally spoke, her voice was so soft that Laura had to lean closer to hear. "I want to be nobody. I want to be just another soldier in just another unit. I want to forget what I have done and who I have become." She turned to face Laura, and for the first time the captain saw something human in those distant eyes, something tired and broken. "I have been a weapon for too long. I want to remember what it feels like to be a person." Laura did not know what to say to that. She had commanded soldiers for 15 years. She had seen trauma in every form, but she had never met anyone like Vance. The woman standing before her had done things that would haunt a normal person for 100 lifetimes, and yet here she was, asking for the simple gift of being ordinary. "The war will not let you hide forever," Laura said finally. Sooner or later, the past catches up. Turn back to the stars. I know, but maybe I can have a few more days of peace before it does. Laura left her there in the darkness. She walked back to her quarters and pulled out classified file one more time. She read the mission reports again. Theta Cygni, the burning night, 300,000 enemy dead in a single operation, one soldier, one woman, walking alone into the heart of the largest hive world and emerging 3 days later covered in blood that was not her own. They called her the Hollow Walker. They said she moved through their tunnels like a ghost, killing without sound, without mercy, without stopping. Their soldiers refused to fight her. Their commanders offered rewards worth more than entire planets for her death. And now she was here, on a standard warship, being mocked by men who had no idea they were laughing at the most dangerous human being alive. Laura closed the file and rubbed her eyes. Whatever happened next, she knew one thing for certain. The 47th Orbital Infantry was about to learn a lesson they would never forget. The distress signal came in the middle of the night. A mining colony on 442b had gone dark after reporting ships in orbit. 2,000 civilians were trapped on the surface with no way to escape. Command ordered the USS Constellation to respond immediately. Was already awake when the alarm sounded. She had not been sleeping much lately. The dreams always came when she closed her eyes, and the dreams were never kind. She put on her combat armor in silence while the rest of the platoon rushed around her, shouting and cursing as they prepared for battle. Pushed past her on his way to the armory. "Try to keep up down there, Ghost. We are not going to slow down for you." She did not respond. She just finished checking her rifle and fell into line with the others. The drop pods launched 30 minutes later. Sat strapped into her seat as the small metal container screamed through the atmosphere of 442b. The heat shields glowed orange outside the tiny window. Inside, the soldiers were quiet. They all knew that they were waiting below. They all knew that some of them might not come back. The pod slammed into the ground hard enough to rattle teeth. The hatch blew open and was moving before the dust had settled. She could hear plasma fire already, the distinctive hiss and crack of weapons cutting through the air. Someone was screaming. Someone was always screaming. The platoon had landed in the middle of a ruined street. Buildings burned on both sides. Bodies of colonists lay scattered across the broken pavement, their faces frozen in expressions of terror. They had not been gentle. Private Chris was the first to get hit. A plasma bolt caught him in the shoulder, and he went down with a grunt of pain. Grabbed him by the collar and dragged him behind a collapsed wall while and laid down covering fire. "Contact left," shouted. "I count at least 20 hostiles moving through that structure." The soldiers were pouring out of a damaged factory building. They were tall creatures with hard black shells and too many limbs. Their eyes were clusters of red dots that glowed in the smoke. They moved fast, faster than anything that size should be able to move, and they showed no fear. Watch them come. She felt the old stillness settle over her like a cold blanket. Her breathing slowed. Her hands stopped shaking. Everything became very simple and very clear. She raised her rifle and fired. The first dropped without a sound. Its head simply came apart as the round punched through its cranial plate. The second one fell a heartbeat later, then the third, then the fourth. Moved forward while the others were still finding cover. She did not run. She did not crouch. She walked through the battlefield like she was taking a stroll through a garden. Her rifle cracked again and again, each shot finding its mark with impossible precision. A soldier burst from behind a burning vehicle, its weapon already aimed at. The young private did not even see it coming, but did. She put 3 rounds through its chest before it could pull the trigger. "What the hell?" breathed from behind his cover. Was watching too. He had fought them for years. He knew how hard they were to kill, how fast they could move, how many shots it usually took to bring one down. And here was this small, quiet woman dropping them like they were made of paper. The first wave broke within minutes. The surviving retreated into the ruins, leaving their dead scattered across the street, crouched behind a low wall and began reloading her rifle. Her hands were steady. Her face showed nothing. The platoon gathered around her in stunned silence. By the time the count was done, had killed more enemies than the rest of them combined. 17 confirmed kills in less than 4 minutes of combat. "Lucky shots," muttered, but his voice was weak and nobody believed him, not even himself. They pushed deeper into the colony as the day wore on. that had established a forward operating base in what used to be the administrative center. Intelligence suggested there might be survivors being held inside. The 47th was ordered to investigate and eliminate any hostile presence. Stayed quiet through all of it. She moved when they moved. She stopped when they stopped. She killed when killing was needed. But she did not speak unless spoken to, and even then her answers were short and empty. That night they made camp in the ruins of a residential building. The walls were mostly gone, but the roof still held. Chris lay on a makeshift stretcher, his shoulder bandaged tight. He would live, but he was out of the fight. The soldiers sat in small groups, eating ration packs and speaking in low voices. The mood had changed since the morning. Nobody was laughing at anymore. Nobody was calling her the ghost. They were too busy trying to understand what they had witnessed. Worked up the courage to approach her. She was sitting alone by a shattered window, staring out at the burning city. "That was something else today," he said carefully. "Where did you learn to shoot like that?" Did not look at him. "Practice." Must have been a lot of practice. "Yes." Waited for her to say more, but she did not. He shifted his weight awkwardly. "I just wanted to say thanks for saving my life back there. That bug would have killed me if you had not been paying attention." Finally turned to face him. Her eyes were dark and unreadable. "Stay behind cover next time. Do not make yourself an easy target." It was not warm. It was not friendly. But it was the most she had said to any of them since arriving. Nodded and walked away, feeling like he had just passed some kind of test. Captain Laura found later that night. The lieutenant had not moved from her spot by the window. The fires outside cast strange shadows across her face. "They are starting to wonder about you," Laura said quietly. "Let them wonder." 17 kills in 4 minutes. That is not normal. That is not even close to normal. Was silent for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. "I told you I wanted to be nobody. I told you I wanted to disappear. And I told you the past always catches up." Closed her eyes. "Not yet, please. Give me a little more time." Laura wanted to argue. She wanted to tell that secrets this big could not stay buried forever. But she saw the exhaustion in the woman's face, the weight of memories too heavy for anyone to carry alone. "The mission continues tomorrow," Laura said finally. "Get some rest." She walked away, stayed by the window, watching the flames consume the city below. Somewhere in the darkness they were regrouping. Somewhere out there they were planning their next move. They had no idea what was coming for them. The tunnels beneath the colony stretched for miles in every direction. The miners had carved them out over decades, following veins of precious ore deep into the planet's crust. Now those tunnels belonged to the intelligence. Reports suggested the enemy had set up a command center somewhere underground. There were also rumors of survivors, colonists who had fled into the darkness when the attack began. The 47th was ordered to investigate both possibilities. Led the platoon into the main entrance just after dawn. The sunlight disappeared behind them within minutes, replaced by the cold glow of emergency lighting. Water dripped from the ceiling. The air smelled like rust and something else, something chemical and wrong. Walked near the back of the formation. She had barely spoken since the previous night. The other soldiers kept glancing at her, their expressions a mixture of curiosity and unease. They still did not know what to make of her. They only knew that she was not what she appeared to be. "Spread out," ordered quietly. 2-meter spacing, watch your corners." The tunnel split into 3 branches ahead. Took point down the left passage while covered the right. The main group continued straight, following the largest tunnel deeper into the earth. Walked beside Chris, who was still nursing his wounded shoulder but had insisted on rejoining the squad. The young private kept his weapon ready and his eyes moving. He could feel something wrong in the air, a tension that had nothing to do with the darkness. "This does not feel right," he whispered to Chris. "Combat never feels right, just stay focused." They had gone maybe half a kilometer when the first explosion hit. The ceiling collapsed behind them in a shower of rock and dust, sealing the tunnel entrance completely. At the same moment, blast doors slammed shut ahead of them, trapping the platoon in a narrow section of passageway. Then the shooting started. Plasma bolts came from everywhere at once. Hidden panels in the walls slid open to reveal soldiers packed 3 deep, their weapons already firing. The platoon was caught in a kill zone with nowhere to run and nowhere to hide. "Ambush," screamed. "Find cover, find cover." But there was no cover. The tunnel walls were smooth and straight. The only protection came from the bodies of fallen soldiers and the scattered debris from the cave-in. Chris took a hit to his injured shoulder and went down hard, screaming in pain, threw himself over his friend's body and fired blindly into the darkness, and were pinned against the sealed blast door, their ammunition running low. Moved through the chaos like she had been born in it. Her rifle cracked steadily as she advanced toward the nearest group of enemies. She was not retreating. She was not taking cover. She was attacking. 2 fell, then 3 more. Then a whole squad walked through their fire like it was rain, twisting and ducking and shooting with a precision that seemed almost supernatural. A plasma bolt grazed her arm and she did not even flinch. She just kept moving forward, kept pulling the trigger, kept dropping bodies. But even she could not stop an army. There were too many of them. For every she killed, 2 more appeared. The platoon was being pushed back against the cave-in, their numbers shrinking with every passing second. Had taken a hit to the leg, was bleeding from a wound on his head, was down to his last magazine. Then suddenly, impossibly, the firing stopped. The silence was so sudden that it hurt. The soldiers lowered their weapons and stepped back, forming a corridor through the middle of the tunnel. Something was coming through that corridor, something big. The creature that emerged was unlike any had seen in a long time. It stood nearly 8 feet tall, its carapace marked with intricate silver patterns that gleamed in the dim light. Its eyes were larger than normal, deeper, more intelligent. It moved with the careful grace of something that had never known fear. A war priest, one of this elite religious commanders. The creature surveyed the trapped humans with an expression that might have been amusement. Its mandibles clicked together slowly, making a sound like stones grinding against each other. The soldiers around it remained perfectly still, waiting for orders. Then the war priest saw. The change was immediate. The creature's body went rigid. Its eyes locked onto her with an intensity that made the air feel thick. The clicking of its mandibles stopped completely. For a long moment, nothing moved. The war priest stared back. The other soldiers looked between them in confusion, not understanding what was happening. Then the war priest spoke. Its voice was deep and rough, like gravel being poured into a metal drum. But the words that came out were clear enough, translated by a device strapped to its chest. The Hollow Walker. The words hung in the air like poison, looked at with wide eyes. His mouth fell open. Even the wounded soldiers lifted their heads to stare. She who carved silence into the heart of our empire, the war priest continued. Its voice carried something strange now, something that sounded almost like fear. She who walked through the burning halls of our sacred hive and left nothing but ash. The soldiers behind it shifted uneasily. Some of them took a step backward. Their weapons trembled in their claws. We did not know, the war priest said. We did not know she was here. Stepped forward and the entire enemy line flinched. Dozens of armed soldiers, hardened warriors who had killed thousands of humans, flinched away from a single woman. You know me, said quietly. Every hatchling learns your name, the war priest replied. Every soldier carries your face in their memory. You are the monster that haunts our children's dreams. You are the reason we fear the dark. His voice came out strangled. Theta Cygni, the burning night, that was you. Did not turn around. Her eyes stayed fixed on the war priest. That was a long time ago. 300,000 of our kind, the war priest said, dead in a single night. Our greatest hive world destroyed by one human. Our brood mothers slaughtered in their chambers. Our generals torn apart in their command posts. You walked alone into the heart of our civilization and you burned it to the ground. The creature took another step backward. Its soldiers followed. Our elders speak of you the way your kind speaks of death itself. You are not just a human. You are something else, something hollow, something hungry. His hands were shaking so badly he could barely hold his rifle. Lieutenant, who are you? Finally turned to face her platoon. These men who had mocked her, these soldiers who had called her weak, they stared at her now with something between terror and awe. I was a soldier, she said simply. I did what needed to be done. The war priest made a sound that might have been laughter. And now you hide among these children, pretending to be ordinary. Why? Turned back to face the creature. Her eyes were cold and empty. Because I hoped you would never find me, but you did, and now you have a choice to make. The tunnel fell silent. The fate of everyone present hung on what happened next. The war priest stood very still. Its soldiers remained frozen behind it, their weapons lowered, their eyes fixed on with something that looked like religious terror. The air in the tunnel felt heavy and cold. Raised her rifle and pointed it directly at the creature's head. "You came here for resources," she said, "for territory, for conquest, but you did not come for me." "No," the war priest admitted. "We did not know you were here. If we had known, we would not have come at all." "Then leave." The simple command echoed off the tunnel walls. The soldiers shifted nervously. Some of them looked at their war priest, waiting for orders. Others kept their eyes on, as if expecting her to attack at any moment. Captain Laura stepped forward, her own weapon trained on the enemy. "She is telling you the truth. Take your soldiers and go. This colony belongs to us." The war priest's mandibles clicked slowly. "You do not give orders to me, human. I speak only with her, only with the hollow walker." "Then speak," said, "but speak quickly. My patience is not unlimited." The creature turned to face its soldiers. It made a series of clicking sounds in their native language, too fast for the translator to follow. The soldiers responded with similar clicks, their body language shifting from fear to confusion and back again. Crawled over to where lay against the sealed door. Both men were wounded but alive. They watched the standoff with wide eyes, still trying to process what they had learned. "Did you know?" whispered. Shook his head. "Nobody knew. She just showed up one day with transfer papers." Theta Cygni was 5 years ago. They said it was a virus that killed the hive. They said it was a biological attack. They lied. Helped Chris sit up against a pile of rubble. The young private's mind was racing, replaying every moment since had joined their unit. The quiet meals eaten alone, the distant looks, the way she moved through combat like she had been doing it her whole life. "She is the most dangerous person in the galaxy," said softly, "and we called her the Ghost." Let out a weak laugh. "We called her a librarian." The war priest finished its conversation with the soldiers and turned back to. Its posture had changed. There was less arrogance now, less confidence. The creature that had walked into this tunnel expecting an easy slaughter was now calculating its chances of survival. "I have a question," it said. "Ask." "After Theta Cygni, our High Council placed a bounty on your head. The reward was worth more than 10 warships. Every hunter in our empire searched for you. Every assassin traced your movements. Every spy tried to learn your identity." The war priest paused. "But you vanished. You disappeared so completely that some believed you were a myth, a story invented by humans to frighten us." Your question prompted. "Why did you hide? You could have continued your war. You could have destroyed more of our hive worlds. You could have become a god among your people." The creature's eyes narrowed. "Instead, you chose to become nothing, a nameless soldier in a forgotten unit. Why?" Was silent for a long moment. When she finally spoke, her voice was quiet enough that everyone had to strain to hear. "Because the war made me into a monster, and I did not want to be a monster anymore." The war priest tilted its head. "You feel guilt for killing our kind." "I feel nothing when I kill your kind. That is the problem," lowered her rifle slightly. "I was trained to be a weapon. I was programmed to destroy without emotion, without hesitation, without mercy, and I was very good at it, too good." She looked at her hands, turning them over slowly as if seeing them for the first time. "After Theta Cygni, I stood in the ruins of your greatest city. 300,000 dead. Mothers, children, soldiers, priests, all of them gone because of me. And I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no horror, no regret, just emptiness." Laura stepped closer too, her expression pained. She had read the reports, but hearing it from directly was something else entirely. "I realized that if I kept fighting, there would be nothing left of me," continued. "No humanity, no soul, just the weapon, just the hollow walker." She raised her eyes to meet the war priest's gaze. "So I ran. I buried myself so deep that even your hunters could not find me, and I tried to remember what it felt like to be a person instead of a tool." The war priest was silent. Its soldiers remained frozen, waiting. "Did it work?" the creature finally asked. Smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "No. Every night I dream of burning hives. Every day I count the exits and identify the threats in every room. I can kill everyone in this tunnel before any of you could blink, and part of me wants to. Part of me always wants to." She raised her rifle again. "But I choose not to. Every day I choose to be human instead of a monster. That is the only victory I have left." The war priest studied her for a long moment. Then it did something that surprised everyone. It bowed its head. We came here seeking conquest, it said. We found something else entirely, a reminder of why our kind fears humanity. Leave this place, said. Take your soldiers and go. Tell your high council that the Hollow Walker still lives. Tell them that she sleeps among the humans like a blade hidden in cloth. And tell them this. She took a step forward. The line shuffled backward. If you come for us again, I will not hide. If you threaten my people again, I will do to your entire empire what I did to Theta Cygni. I will walk through every hive world you possess. I will burn every tunnel and slaughter every queen. And when I am finished, there will be nothing left of your civilization but ash and memory. Her voice dropped to a whisper. I am the Hollow Walker. I am the monster your children fear, and I am only one human. Imagine what would happen if others like me decided to stop hiding. The war priest stared at her. The fear in its eyes was absolute. You would destroy us completely, it said. Yes, so make sure we never have to. The creature was silent for 3 heartbeats. Then it turned to its soldiers and clicked a series of commands. They began moving backward, retreating through the tunnel they had come from. They moved quickly, urgently, like prey fleeing from a predator. The war priest was the last to go. It paused at the edge of the light and looked back at one final time. You are not just a weapon, it said quietly. You are something worse. You are a warning. Then it vanished into the darkness. The blast doors unsealed with a hiss. The rubble blocking the entrance began to shift as engineers cleared it from the other side. Within an hour, the enemy had completely evacuated the colony. Stood motionless in the center of the tunnel, her rifle still raised, her eyes still fixed on the shadows. Behind her, the platoon watched in stunned silence. They had entered these tunnels believing they knew who their lieutenant was. They left knowing that they had been fighting alongside a legend. From 442 be completely within 6 hours. Their ships broke orbit and jumped to faster than light speeds, leaving behind only the wreckage of their invasion. The mining colony was liberated. The surviving civilians were evacuated to safety aboard the USS Constellation. The mission was declared a complete success. But nobody in the 47th Orbital Infantry felt like celebrating. The platoon gathered in the cargo bay as the ship began its journey back to human space. Medical teams moved among the wounded, treating burns and bandaging cuts. Sat on a crate with his leg wrapped in synthetic skin, staring at the floor. Had stitches across his forehead. Was drinking water and trying to stop his hands from shaking. Chris was stable but would need weeks of recovery time. Sat beside him, watching over his friend while replaying the events of the past few days in his mind. Stood apart from the others. She had changed out of her combat armor and into standard fatigues. There was a small bandage on her arm where the plasma bolt had grazed her, but otherwise she looked the same as she always did. Quiet, distant, unremarkable. But nobody saw her that way anymore. Was the first to approach. He limped across the cargo bay slowly, his face tight with pain and something else, something that looked like shame. He stopped in front of and stood there for a moment, searching for the right words. I owe you an apology, he said finally. Looked at him, you owe me nothing. That is not true. We treated you like dirt since the day you arrived. We mocked you, we dismissed you. We thought we knew everything and you were nothing. He shook his head. We were wrong, I was wrong. Said nothing, she just waited. You saved our lives down there, continued. Not just from the bugs. You could have let the war priest kill us all. Nobody would have blamed you after how we acted, but you stood up for us anyway. That is what soldiers do. No, that is what good soldiers do, and you are the best soldier I have ever seen. He extended his hand. I am sorry, Lieutenant, truly sorry. Looked at his hand for a long moment. Then she reached out and took it. Apology accepted, Sergeant. Nodded and limped back to his crate. One by one, the other soldiers came forward, apologized for the librarian comment, admitted he had been jealous and threatened by her presence. Even Chris, still lying on his stretcher, called out that he was grateful she had joined their unit. Was the last to approach. He had been building up his courage all afternoon, trying to find the right thing to say. When he finally stood in front of, his words came out in a rush. I do not know what you went through before you came here. I cannot imagine what it took to do what you did, but I want you to know that I am glad you are on our side, and I hope you can find what you are looking for. Tilted her head slightly. What do you think I am looking for? Peace maybe, or forgiveness, or just somewhere you belong, shrugged. Whatever it is, I hope you find it. for the first time since anyone could remember, smiled. It was small and brief and vanished as quickly as it appeared, but it was real. "Thank you, Private, that means more than you know." Nodded and walked away feeling like something important had just happened. He did not fully understand it, but he knew that their unit would never be the same. Captain Laura watched all of this from the doorway. She waited until the other soldiers had dispersed before approaching. "That was unexpected," Laura said. "Which part?" "All of it, the confession, the mercy, the war priest retreating without a fight." Laura crossed her arms. "I read your file. According to the official reports, you do not show mercy. You do not make speeches. You just complete the mission and move on." Turned to face her commanding officer. "The official reports were written by people who never met me. They only knew the Hollow Walker. They did not know Vance." "And which one are you now?" "I do not know." Looked down at her hands again. "Maybe both, maybe neither. I have been the weapon for so long that I forgot there was anything else. But today, standing in that tunnel, I remembered something." "What?" "Why I fight, not for territory, not for resources, not even for victory," met Laura's eyes. "I fight because there are people worth protecting, people who deserve to live, people who deserve a chance to grow old and have families and die peacefully in their beds." She gestured toward the cargo bay, where the soldiers of the 47th were laughing and joking despite their wounds. "Those men mocked me, they insulted me, they made my life difficult for no reason other than their own insecurity, and yet I would die to protect any one of them," shook her head slowly. "That is what they do not understand about humanity. We are not a species of lone predators. We are a family. We fight for each other. We sacrifice for each other. We forgive each other." Laura was quiet for a long moment. Then she placed a hand on his shoulder. "Your secret is still safe. Nobody outside this ship knows who you really are. If you want to disappear again, I can make it happen." Considered the offer. She thought about all the places she could go, all the identities she could assume, all the ways she could hide from her past. She had been running for 5 years. She was tired of running. "I think I will stay," she said finally, "if the platoon will have me." Laura smiled. "I think they would follow you into hell after today." "Let us hope it does not come to that." The USS Constellation continued its journey through the stars. In the cargo bay, the soldiers of the 47th settled in for the long trip home, started a card game that quickly grew to include most of the platoon, told stories about his family back on Earth, shared ration packs with anyone who was hungry. And in the corner, no longer alone, Vance sat with her new comrades and listened to their laughter. She was still the Hollow Walker. She would always carry that weight. But for the first time in years, she felt something other than emptiness. She felt hope. She felt belonging. She felt human. The war against the was far from over. There would be more battles ahead, more sacrifices, more losses. But the 47th Orbital Infantry had learned a valuable lesson on 442B. Humanity's greatest strength was not its weapons or its technology. It was not its ships or its soldiers or its strategic brilliance. Humanity's greatest strength was its people, the quiet ones who surprised you, the broken ones who kept fighting, the ordinary ones who turned out to be extraordinary. Closed her eyes and listened to the hum of the ship's engines. Somewhere out in the darkness, they were telling stories about her. They were warning their children about the monster that walked in the night. They were adding new verses to their songs of fear. But was not thinking about the enemy. She was thinking about the friends she had made, the family she had found, the home she might finally deserve. And for the first time in a very long time, the Hollow Walker slept without dreams.